Hi everyone, I did not exactly do the introduction the way I wanted to. So the thing is, this is a part of a series known as your first game, and this is the second video of that. Secondly, you can get all the assets, the starting and the end product of this particular video in the description below. If you just want to go through this particular video, you can go through that. Let's continue. Hi everyone, welcome back, and in this video we are going to understand what are tile sets and tile maps and the collision with those tiles, and I think terrains as well, right? And towards the end I would try to explain the mathematical aspect of terrains, and in the initial part I'll just explain how to use them. So you need a level, right? For a level you need a platform where your player can stand, run, walk around, and for that you need something known as tilemap. So the thing is, to create a level you have small elements known as tiles or some images that you can place it on the screen, which are repeatable, so that you can have a platform. And technically, if you place, let's say, a tile on a screen, you are mapping a position of a particular tile on that screen, and because of that it is known as a tile map. You're creating a mapping for all the tiles on the screen for the player to move around. So you have multiple types of tile sets, and so basically a tile set is a set of tiles, right? So let's start by creating the ground itself. So what I would do is, if you go here, click on this plus icon, which would open this panel, and this, what you have to do is search for a tile map. Now what you do see is you have two options. Under the node 2D you have a tile map and a tile map layer, and if I just zoom out a bit, and you see on the bottom, it's this tile map is actually deprecated. Okay, so the thing is, you can have multiple tile maps, and because of that you had initially a single node that would take care of all of these different layers. But what the makers of Godot did is that they made a tile map layer node, which is individual layers for the tiles, and you can keep track of individual layers on the left panel, so you don't have to worry about managing everything in the tile map itself. So it's just a bit more modularity. So for this we are going to use tile map layer, but for some reason, if you know how to use this tile map, every concept directly translates to this tile map layer. So for this tutorial what I would use is this tile map layer. So let's click on that, and again I do see a new node. So what I'll do is, to organize this level, I'll create a new node, and that would be just a node 2D, the most basic 2D node, and that would act as a container to all of my tile maps, right? Or basically all of the tile map layers. So what I'll do is I'll rename this as tile maps, and in this I would have a single tile map layer. Okay, so you do see we have a panel opened on the bottom, and in the terms of tile set we don't have anything yet, so we'll look into that. But first of all, what I would like to do is to take this tile maps and place it at the bottom. Okay, so the way these nodes are presented in this tree will determine in the order of which these are rendered on the screen, although you can manually change those by changing the Z index of those nodes, and we'll get into this Z index topic later on in this series. But for now I'm not trying to use the Z index because I don't want to use it now. Okay, so we have this tile map and we have this tile map layer, and let me name this as the ground. So this would act as the platform for my player. Now the next thing what we have to do is look at this side, which is the tile set. Click on this empty and you have to create a new tile set. So when you click on that, okay, so when you create this tile set you would see some grids on the screen, and if you just click on this tile set again you would have some properties. So tile shape is square, you have isometric, you have half of offset square, you have hexagon. So you must have seen games like Monument Valley, those are more or less like isometric, and there are tiles which can be hexagon, but we'll go with the square one because that is what is present in the asset pack. Next is this tile size, which is one of the most important things, and so this could depend on the type of asset you have. For our asset we actually have 32 cross 32, so it is still a square, but 32 times 32. So if I just zoom out, you see we do have squares, and when we changed this from 16 to 32, the sizes of these squares actually increased. So these tiles are basically position or placeholders for placing the tiles, and that would correspond to a mapping of a tile to a location on the screen. So tile mapping. Okay, so once we are done with that, what I would like to do is go on this bottom panel. So if you see here, you have two options. One is Tileset and one is tilemap. So currently we are on this tilemap, and the job of this tilemap is actually create the mapping of the tile to the grid, and this is where we actually draw out all the level. But now to configure some properties of the tiles itself, how they should collide, how they should be arranged, about the auto tiling stuff, that is determined in this Tileset tab. So if I click on that, I would have something like this panel. So we have tiles, we have patterns, so we'll go with tiles. So now what we want is to add a new tile set that we already have. So if I go into this asset, and in this asset, if I go into this palm tree island, click on the sprites, and I can see something known as terrain. So this would contain our terrain, or basically the land and everything. So what I can do is I can just select this and drag it here, and when I do this, and you see there is this pop-up, the atlas texture is modified. Would you like to automatically create tiles in the atlas? So Godot has this feature that given the tile set and given the tile size, this would automatically chop the relevant tiles, and it would omit any tile which is having the alpha value as 0, technically the blank tiles or the transparent tiles. So don't do anything, just click on yes, and that is good enough for us. And you see you do have a tile set. Now if I scroll up and down on my mouse keys, this is what happens, and this is our tile set. And you see we do have some properties here, and the most important property is this paint tab. If I click on that and I click on this would open some properties like texture origin, modulate, set index, all sorts of stuff. But what we are concerned with in this video is the terrains and the physics. Otherwise we are good with this. So we do have our tiles, we are having them properly chopped. So what I'll do is go to this tile map and click on this, and that would open this tiles. If I drag this down and zoom out, and so press F to center, and let me just choose a particular tile, this one. So when I clicked on that, I can actually place these tiles on my screen, right? And if I take this, I can place it like this. I take this, I can place it like this, and so on. I can actually create my whole level in this manner. So we do have many different types of tiles, and according to your choice, you can actually manipulate what you want your level to look like. So that is about this tile map. And the thing is, let's see some more ways how do you actually place these tiles. So you saw for placing this tile, I had to manually click on each and individual squares or pieces like so, but you do have this line feature as well. So if I click on that, and if I just zoom out, let's just test this out. So if I click here and just drag out my mouse, it would try to create a line between them, and accordingly that would place tiles along this line. Like this, I can have a whole row, and I can just place a single tile as well, and I can also have multiple tiles like this. So if I do this, sit here and take this bottom tile here and here, and take this, and I can draw a line like this. Now what I could do is now use this rectangle tool, and what this does is if I select the center one, I can now fill a whole rectangle. Similarly, if I just undo that, and I can do this bucket, and I can just fill this whole area just like the paint bucket in your paint, MS Paint. And this, the way this actually goes about filling these tiles is something known as the flood fill algorithm, and that works on depending on breadth first search or depth first search. That is a very standard algorithm also used in MS Paint. Fill a particular region with any color. Okay, so let's say you want this particular tile, just deselect this. I'll select this one. I can select a particular tile Okay, so still I do have the bucket selected. Let me just select this pencil, and if I click on this dropper, I can click on any tile and it would automatically select the tile. So let's you have this tile, right? I can click on this and that would actually rotate my tile. If I click on this again, that would again rotate my tile. If I click on this again, it would rotate. And yep, this is for flipping and this is for again flipping. So yeah, that is good. And this is for randomizing, I think so, I'm not sure. Now what you just saw was me deleting some tiles. So that was about adding some tiles. You just saw me deleting some tiles. So if you use the left mouse button, that would add the tiles, and if you use the right mouse button, that would actually delete the tiles. The way that we actually used these elements, this would work in the exact same manner. So that is actually deleting the tiles. So more or less you can add and you can delete the tiles. And in this, there's nothing much to tell you about this tile set and tile map. This is just the ground. But the thing is, if I just save this and if I try to play this game and we see what is happening, I can see I can go left and right. But if I go beyond this static body 2D, which is this blue one, I would actually fall off the platform. And why is that the case? So the reason is Godot does not actually know how your player is actually colliding with these tiles, and collision is a property of physics. So if you go to the right and you see here, you have something known as the physics layer. So if I click on this, this would ask you to add an element. So if I do that, this would create a collision layer and a collision mask. So till now in this series, I have not talked about the collision layer and collision masks, which I would do in a later part of this series, because so once we have many objects like coins, potions and things like that, we do need to work with this collision layer and collision mask. But in general, collision layer is a layer where your current node is actually staying, and the mask is all the things that it can actually collide with. You don't need to understand why or what is happening, but yep, that's it. So once you do this, right, and if I just zoom out and go back to this tile set, right, and if I click on this, select a property editor in the paints tab, if I click on this, now I do have a physics layer 0. So click on that and that would actually create this. And now what is this? If you ask me, this is basically the collision shape. Like we had a rectangle for the static body, right? This is a square for this tile set. So if I click on any of these shapes, this would, if you see, if I go here, if I click on any of these objects, that would actually fill this in. So what I could do is select all of these tiles, and basically in a way you are coloring them blue, so which tells Godot that you can collide with the whole tile. Now for example, although we are not going to do this in this particular example, but you see this portion, right, this portion here is actually empty, so technically your player should not collide with it. So what you could do is you can modify this collision shape by taking this point and you can just drag it somewhere about there, and what would that do is actually shift or change the shape. So you see you do have a plus symbol, so if I click on that, that would actually add a new point. I can add a new point here, again I can add a new point here, and for some reason you did something that you did not want to do, you want to remove that point. So click on this and click on any point that you want to delete, and that would actually delete the point. Let's say if I delete this as well, so let's say you want to add a point, click on that and you can just randomly place a point, and that would, let's say, be something like this. Close this. So now you have a weird collision shape but nothing. So I'll just delete all of these points, or what I could do is click on these three dots and reset to default tile shape. So what I wanted to show you, let's say if I do something like this, right, something like this, and if I click on this, now the player would only be able to collide with this portion of this tile. So whenever you have this particular tile, your player would only be able to collide with this area and not the area which is not in this collision shape. Now but that is not something that we want to do, so I'll just do to reset to default tile shape. Click on this again and we are good to go. So now if I zoom out and press play, what you would see is, first of all, we are actually able to see this collision shape, right? Because we did that in our previous tutorial. So if I go here, I can jump, but if I go outside of the static body, I can still collide with the platform, and that is good. If I just close out of this, what I could do is click on this debug, and I can just remove this visible collision shape. Debug, disable visible collision shapes. So we are good with that. And with that, what I could actually do is I can actually delete this platform. So delete, okay, because we now do have a platform which our player can collide with. I can save this and I can press play. See, I can go left, I can go right, I can jump, and we do have a good enough working level. That is good. We'll just close this. And what's next? Now what we want to do is actually design the whole level. If you observed me placing these tiles, it was very difficult, which is something that we don't actually want to do. We want an easier way. We just want a layout that is in our mind, and we want Godot to automatically place the correct tiles depending on that layout. So how do we do that? So for that, there is a concept known as the terrain in Godot, or in general, if you search on the internet, it is known as autotiling. So what autotiling is basically you tell how the level looks like, and Godot will decide which tile should be placed where. But the way that Godot decides is again given by you. So you give it some parameters. Given this information, you have to place this tile to the right of it, this tile to the left of it, no tile above it, something like that. If you don't understand, not an issue, but let's actually go on again on this ground, and we have this tile map. In this, you see we were working with tiles, so I can select any tile and I can place it like this and delete it like this. What we want to work is with this terrains, and currently we don't have a terrain. So what I'll do is I'll go towards this right, zoom this in, and I'll minimize this physics layer, click on this terrain set and click on add element. Now in this, if I click on this, you have three options: match sides, match corners, match corner and sides. So for a square tile, a tile set like this, match corners and sides is the thing that you want to use. Click on that and click on this terrains, and inside this terrains again you have an option to add an element. So click on that, and now you can name this terrain anything. So what I'll call is this as a platform. See, I've named that as a platform. Now for this color, what I want you to choose is any color which is bright enough and it is not anywhere near the color of the tile set, so that it is actually easier to differentiate these colors from the tiles itself. So I'll take that and make it a bit bright, and that is good enough. I'll come back down, and that is good for me. So the thing is, the color that you choose here will not affect how your game would look. This is just a visual representation for you to understand the terrain. Okay, so that is about this color. And when we did that, if you see left, we have a terrain set zeros, match corners and sides, and the platform 0 itself. So this color on the terrains tab is the same thing that you have just set. So if I just zoom out, so now we need to tell Godot that depending on how we place the tiles, what is the logic behind that, which tile goes where. So for that, you go to this tile set, and in this paint tab, what you want to paint is not the physics layer, but now what you want to paint is this terrain. Click on this, and first terrain set. So in this terrain, what all tiles do you want? So for me, I want each and every tile that you can see. So for no terrains, I'll select the terrain set 0. This one. This is the terrain set 0. So what I would do is, first of all, in this terrain, none of these tiles are a part of this terrain. So for this platform 0, I want all of these tiles to be a part of it, all of these tiles to be a part of it. And what you do is you just click on this left mouse button, hover over every tile that you want to be a part of this terrain. And doing that, you would basically choose all of them. Now, once you do that, what you would see is every tile is now divided into 9 chunks. So this is where the concept of bits and bit set comes into picture, and a byte has 8 bits and it can be either 0 or 1. And this is something that we are going to discuss at the very end when we are done with this auto tiling. Now, for now, we'll just go over the visual understanding and how do we actually use this terrain. So technically every tile in this is a part of this terrain. And how do you define that? You click on the center of each of the tiles, and that would tell you, or that would make this tile as a part of this terrain, right? So to tell this is a part of terrain, you select all of the centers. Now after doing that, you have 8 remaining options. Now the thing is, you see, for this particular tile, let me just zoom this in. What I want is, for this tile, there would always be a tile to the right of it, this side. So I'll click on this. So this specifies, this purple specifies that if you place this tile, there would be a tile to the right of it. If you place this tile, there would be a tile on top of it. So if I place this value here, that means there is a tile on top of it. If I click on this as well, that means there is a tile below it as well. So whenever you place a tile, given this information, it will always have a tile above it, below it, and to the right of it. And since you don't have selected these 3, that means it won't have a tile on its left, on its top left, or on its bottom left. Similarly, if I have not selected this one, that means there won't be any tile on the top right. If I have not selected this, that means I do not have any tile on the bottom left or bottom right. So in this example, we do have a tile on the bottom right. So I'll select this and select this. So technically what I'm trying to say, given this tile, this is a part of this tile set, right? There is a tile above it, there is a tile to the top right of it, to the right of it, bottom right of it, and on the bottom of it. For this tile, you see, you technically have a tile on the top, bottom, left, right, and or diagonally as well. That means you need to color it totally. For this tile, there should be a tile to the top of it, to the bottom of it, to the left of it, to the top left and bottom left of it as well. And using this logic, you would actually cover each and everything. Now, this is not exactly very easy to grasp, but this is what it is. For this one, given this, since this is a grass, I know there won't be a tile above it. So although this is a part of this tile, so I'll select the center one for this one as well, for this one as well. Now to move around like this, you just need to press the middle mouse button. Okay, so anyways, so there should not be any tile to the left of it, bottom left of it, right of it, bottom right of it, but there should be a tile below it. So click on that. For this particular tile, there should be a tile above and below it. So select these, and for this, there should only be a tile above it. So select it. Similarly, I can do for this, I can do for this, and now for this tile, if you look, there should be no tile around it at all. So if I just give you a gist, you should not color anything that has green inside of it or these stones. So technically you would color it something like this. So the thing is, you have to use this right mouse button to unselect a part of this terrain, something like this, I think so. Okay, for this one you would have to do something like this. For this you have something like this. For this one you have something like this. And so the way I figured this out is by trial and error. So what I'm showing you is the final result that I actually got, but in reality, when you would actually do this, you will make some errors and you would have to figure out what you did wrong. So you can just copy it now if you don't understand it exactly, but this is technically, if you know a 3x3 Rubik's Cube, this one is like a fish, if you understand what I mean. This is a fish, and in this one, this would just be a plus, this would be 2 fishes, something like that. And for this one, you would have something just this. For this one, you have this weird seesaw type shape for each of these tiles, and I think so that is good enough. See, if I just zoom this out, you have this. Now, what did we actually do here? So here we actually told Godot that given a tile, where you should place the other tiles as well. So given a particular area, what tile can go where? So technically this can never be a top left tile because there should be a tile above and below it. Neither it can be the bottom tile. But if there is a single tile, this cannot be there as well because it needs corresponding 4 tiles for it as well. 4 or 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tiles. So given this tile, you would always have 5 tiles surrounding it. For this one, this would only need 1 tile, which should be above this. And that technically does our job. So now in our tile map, if I go into tiles, you can select individual tiles, right? Like this and this and this makes it very difficult to make a whole level. But the thing is, if I go to terrains now and select this platform 0, and I would select this omnidirectional thing, this one, and once you do that, click on that, use a rectangle, and when you just try to place it like this, see what happens. This would automatically generate the whole tiling. See, there is some issue here. Yep, something like that. So if I add a tile here, this would automatically generate a tile here. So let's say if I just delete this particular tile, look what happens here. So click on this and that would automatically change this tile. So now if I click here and do something like this, add a platform like this, and it would automatically generate the correct tiling which is required given this tile set. And not only that, if I just remove this, and I can actually play this level as well. I can go, I can jump, I can move around, and this is actually working fine. That is good, that is good. But we do want something more, right? And that is a background, which won't be a part of this video because I want to show you a different thing which is also present in this tile set. And if you see, there is an issue. This should not be a top right tile. There should be some stones here, right? So we do have some issue. So let's go back to this tile set and let's see where do we have an issue. So I don't think there is an issue with this because my demo project, this was like this and it was actually working fine. So let's go back to the style map, click on this, and let me just try to click on this. So what is issue? So okay, so yep, this is working. Yep, this is working fine. So I think there was some issue with the loading of the tile itself, but I can just save this level and we are good to go. So this was just a basic terrain and that is good. But if we just saw the thumbnail of this particular video, we had different tiles and that is what I want to do. So what I want you to do is just click a photo. Remember this, what you did here, because you have to do this again 2 or 3 times. Okay, so the thing is, what I'll do is I'll create a new level. I'll call this as level 2, and what I'll try to do is just copy these node structure, the tree structure. So first I'll add a node 2D, which would be what? This would be let's say this would not be anything, let's say tile maps, and then what we would have is pirate and a camera 2D. Let's add the pirate, and for this let's me add a camera 2D as its child. Let's change the zoom to 4, and that is good enough for our pirate. For this tile maps, first of all I'll rename this as, and in this what I'll do is again click on this plus, that would open this panel, and in this what I would do is search for tile map layer, this one. Again we have this, so what I'll do is go towards the right, click on this empty, click on this new tile set, click on this again, and that would open this panel. So our size was 32 cross 32. If I just zoom this out, I hope you can see that. And in this we do have physics layer, so we would add that an element. So add a physics layer, we'll minimize that, add a terrain set, so add element. So in this we can add a terrain, and let me call this as platform, and let me change this color to again something bright like that. Okay, so we are good with that, and let me just search for this terrain in this directory. So I think that this would be in the pirate ship, sprites, tile sets, and terrain and back wall. So what I'll do is I'll take this, right, and in this tile set I'll just drag this here, and what that would do is again pop up this atlas thing, click on yes, and that would do the job. Now what we do have is 2 tile sets exactly like the previous one, and the terrain thing is ditto same, it's exactly the same. So what you have to do is first add collision to these upper layers and don't add a collision to these bottom layers. That's your task. So pause this video, do that, and then we'll follow along. Okay, so I'm assuming you're done with that. So what I'll do is I'll click on paint, and rather than painting the terrains, what I'll do is paint the physics layer 0, and for this one I'll just paint these above tiles, and yep, something like that, and that is good. So basically these are the platforms we can actually collide with, and the bottom are the tiles which are posing as a background. We are not actually using them. So what I'll do is, okay, so that was the task. If you've done that, good. Next is we are going to the terrain. So for the platform, the upper one is actually the platform. So click on platform 0 and again select all of them. So I'll just zoom it in so that you can actually see it in action. Select all of them, and yeah, that is good. Now what I would like you to do is actually color these tiles the way that we did for the previous one. So I'll just do that as best as I could. I'll just complete the same tiling. So you see this color for me on this laptop. I don't know how you are able to see this. For me it's not that different. I need a different color. So again, I'll just go here and I'll just choose a different color that is actually differentiable from the tile set. So this sky blue is good for me. Again, so what I'll do is I'll just paint these. I'll unselect them, select these and this. So for this one, I think we would be having something like this. I'm just trying to do this from memory, but you have this previous one, right? The grass one, you use that directly. So we have something like this. For this one, I think we had something like this. Okay, so that's for that. This one was like a fish one. I think you were able to see the fish now. Fish one, that's about it. This one I think was a plus sign, and this was two fishes. And for this one, what was it? I think it was just a square, right? And for this one, we had a weird seesaw. So we're done with painting the terrain. So let's now actually create the level. So for that, I'll go to this tile map, go to this platform 0, and in this I'll select this omnidirectional one, and let's go with this rectangle, and I can just draw, and that would actually create a whole platform. This is what we wanted. This is really good. And what I could do is actually first of all, let me just save this level. Save this in levels and level 2, and after that what I can do is I can press play, and this would not actually open that level. And the reason for that, the original level was initially selected as the main scene, which we do not want. So I'll close this, and just to run this particular scene, what I'll do is click on this run current scene, and that would actually open this current scene. So I can go left, I can go right, I can jump, and I can actually move around. So yeah, that is good. But what about the background for this tile set? So if you saw, this terrain had this. If I go to this tile set, the bottom one is actually the background, and the background is a part of this terrain as well. So everywhere that there is not a tile of this platform, there should be a back wall tile. So for that, what I would do is, again, I would add an element, but in the same terrain, right? This is very important, because if you do that in a new terrain, or if you add a new terrain, this won't work. You want this to work in the same terrain. So rather than terrain, this would be background, and the color would be again something like bright sky blue color, so that it is actually easier to differentiate. And now if you go back to this paint in this terrain set, you still select the terrain set 0, but for this platform you now choose the background 1. So for this, first of all, I need to select all of these, and let's just go over all of these one by one, and that makes this or these tiles as a part of this same terrain. And now doing that gives me the ability to mark the 9 tiles, and that is it. So let me just change this to from blue to something else, right? I want this to be different from this blue, so that you can actually see that these are not part of the same mapping in a way, this same auto tiling, but there is part of the same terrain. So yeah, again, just color these the way you did the upper one. I'll just zoom this in, and this is good, this is good, this is done, this is done, this is this one, if I'm not wrong. This is the horizontal one. How was this one? This was everything apart from the so what's next is this one, right? Something like this, right? Yeah, just color this exactly the same way that you did for the previous two. And yeah, that is good for that. This is this, and you have this here, and you do have a square right in the middle. And for this one, what you did was, yeah, a plus and two fishes. For this, let me add a plus and the two fishes. That is good. Okay, so what this did was give you a different matching. So the thing is, given this tile set, there should be a left, there should be a right, and 3 on the bottom left, bottom, and the bottom right. But the thing is, for this pink one, the adjacent tiles that it requires should also be the part of the pink one itself. So these all tiles are the part of the pink one, right? So the left tile should also be a part of the pink tile set, right should be also part of pink tile set. If that was not the case, you would actually or technically merge these two tiles. So to the right of this tile, you can have this particular tile, which is something that we don't want. Let's go back to this tile map, and rather than selecting this platform 0, we'll select this platform and select this omnidirectional. And let me just try to color the parts which are not of this one, the platform one. See, now you are actually able to create a background as well. Now the thing I wanted to show you is this. If I click on this, right, this would not only change this background but this adjacent platform as well. See, if I click here, it would change the background as well as the platform itself. So this is very important. So now you have multiple in the same terrain, you have different types of tile sets which can be used in different ways. And I can save the scene, and that is what I wanted to teach you about Tileset and tilemaps. And this is the practical aspect of it. I'll see you in the bit set part, which is just after this, so don't go away from the video. Okay, so now we are in my notebook, and this is where I would teach you the mathematical aspect on exactly how the autotiling works behind the scenes in Godot. And in no way it is required for you to learn, but if you know, that would actually give you a deeper understanding of the game engine in itself. So as you saw in the tutorial, we had a square, right, which was divided into 9 blocks, and I told you that the center one is in a way useful and useless in so it is useful for telling which tile is the part of this tile or this terrain. So this center one basically tells you if this tile is a part of the terrain or not. Otherwise it has no use in this, what do I say, auto tiling. Okay, so what you see, you have 8 spaces, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 and 8. And this is very important for you to understand that what are these values and what do they actually represent. So let's talk about a binary number or a binary digit, which is basically the bit. So what exactly happens is that in a computer, a number is stored in a byte basically. So what is a byte? Byte is what? Byte is exactly 8 bits. Okay, so if you remember in the tutorial, what I did was to tell you match corners and sides, right? So for that you require a byte. So if you just had matching the sides, for that you need 4 bits, which is basically a nibble. So nibble is 4 bits. So we wanted to see matching corners and sides, right? So let's say we have 8 places, and I can write a number like this 0 0 1 1 1. So what is this number? So technically, if you know this binary to decimal conversion, this number is actually number 7. So this is in base 2, this is in base 10. So how do you figure out that this number is actually the number 7? The way you do that is by this. So I'll just delete this. You take this number and multiply this with 2 to the power 0. Take this number, multiply with this with 2 to the power 1. Take this number, multiply it with 2 to the power 2, this with 2 to the power 3, and so on till you reach 2 to the power 7. And now multiply this. And now what you do is you then sum all of them. So 1 into 2 to the power 0 is 1, plus 1 into 2 to the power 1 is 2, plus 1 into 2 to the power 2 is actually 4, and 0 into anything, the remaining values are 0. So this is actually the number 7. So that was binary to decimal conversion, right? This is something that you should know, because for every orientation. Okay, so the thing is, let's say you, for the terrains thing, you had a square like this, and what you did was to, let's say you colored this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one, and you left this as empty, this as empty, and this as empty. So I leave it empty in this as well. So if you remember this one, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, right? So you start by placing the values from right to left. So this is position 1, this is position 2, 3 4 5 6 7 and 8, something like that. So for this one, you have colored the position 1 2 3 4 and 5. Okay, so the binary number associated with this tile is what? This tile is 1 1 1 1 1 and 3 zeros. So what is this number exactly? So this number is what? This into 2 to the power 0, this into 2 to the power 1, this into 2 to the power 2, this into 2 to the power 3, this into 2 to the power 4. So this is 16, this is 8, this is 4, this is 2, this is 1, and if you sum them up, this should be 31. Fine, you're fine with this. So technically you always have to color the center one, so I'm not considering that as a part of this number. So if I color a tile just on the center one, so that is basically the number, this one, which is actually 0. And if I just color this one, or let me just draw this box like this, if I just color this square on the right, so that is 1 0 0, this number 0 0 0 0 and 0. So this number is being used to represent this particular tile, and this number is actually 4. So for every coloring that you do, you have a unique number assigned with that. That is what I wanted to tell. So if you color it like this would have a unique number associated with it, and the number for this one will not be same for, let's say, this one. If I just make a mirror image of that, so you can choose as many as you want, and so that gives you the limitation on the number of unique tiles that you can have in your tile set. And since you have 8 numbers, so you have total 2 to the power 8 possible tiles. And what is 2 to the power 8? So 2 to the power 4 is what? It's 16 square, which is 256. So using this matching corners and side, you can have 256 unique combinations. Okay, so you can have 256 different unique combinations, and every number has a unique meaning assigned with it, right? So for example, let's say so what you do is, now you are in your tile map section where you are actually painting the tiles, right? So you select the rectangle tool and you select, let's say, these 8 blocks like this, right? And now how does Godot decides which tile to be placed where? Okay, so what this would do is Godot will see that, okay, you have a tile like this, and it will go on each and every block and check what are there. Is there a neighboring tile in the neighborhood? So now what would Godot do is go onto each and every tile and figure out how many neighboring tiles does this particular tile have. So for this one, let's say if I take this one, it has a tile on the right, on top right and up. So that means the tile that you are going to place here would be the tile which you had colored like this. Okay, so given this top right and right, you will find the tile in your tile set which you have painted like this, which looks like this, or which has the number 7 assigned to it. So when you are actually coloring the tiles, you are giving a number to that particular tile. So if you remember, we had a grid like this where you had grass on the top and stones on the right, the very first square 9 blocks. So for this, the center one, the value would be 255, right? So you have given the center tile as the number 255. You have given this tile a different number, and each and every tile in that tile set is having a unique number. So for this one, when you are actually trying to paint it on your screen, so here what would happen is it would see that it has a tile on the top right and right. So that means this tile should be the tile number 7, and it would figure out which tile has the number 7, and that would actually be placed here. Similarly, for this particular tile, right, you can see there's a top left, bottom left and bottom. So it will figure out the tile for this number like 1111100. So this binary number, whatever it is in decimal, it will find this particular number in your tile set which you have marked in your terrain, and it would choose that particular tile for placing at this position. So let's say if you just delete this particular tile, what it would do is basically it would recalculate all the tiles and see if there is any change or not. So now I know this drawing is a bit messy, but I hope you get the idea. So basically, when you're actually coloring in your terrains tab, you are assigning a unique number to a tile, and that number is now later determined when you're actually painting the tile map. And in that, depending on the way you place the tiles, it would figure out what numbered tile should be placed here, and accordingly that tile would be placed there. So yep, I know this is way messy, but anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next series. Okay, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.